The sun hung low over the African savanna, casting golden light across the dry, cracked earth. The wind carried whispers of distant roars. But tonight, there was a different kind of battle unfolding. A lone white lioness, her belly swollen with life, staggered through the tall grass. Her once magnificent coat, meant to shine like ivory under the sun, was now dull, matted, and crawling with millions of parasites, tiny invaders feeding off her weakening body. Barnacles, the kind that latch onto sea creatures, clung stubbornly to her skin, a disturbing mystery in itself. She wasn't just fighting for herself. Inside her, tiny fragile lives were waiting to be born. But in her condition, would she even survive long enough to bring them into the world? Her breathing was ragged, every step a struggle. She had once been a queen, a powerful huntress feared by all. Now, she was an outcast, left behind by her pride, abandoned in her most vulnerable moment. The weight of exhaustion dragged her down, but she refused to collapse. Instinct told her that stopping meant death. Then, movement. In the distance, a rumble broke the eerie silence. Tires against the dirt. A vehicle was approaching. Humans, their scent mixed with the dry wind. Foreign yet familiar. She had seen their kind before. Some who harmed, some who helped. But she was too weak to run, too weak to fight. As the truck came closer, the figures inside gasped at the sight before them. A rare white lioness, pregnant, infested, barely clinging to life. This wasn't just an ordinary rescue. It was a race against time. Would they reach her before the parasites drained her last breath? Would her cubs survive the chaos inside her body? No one knew the answer, but one thing was certain. This was only the beginning. The truck skidded to a stop, kicking up a thick cloud of dust that hung in the dry air. Inside the vehicle, the rescue team sat frozen for a moment, their eyes locked onto the struggling lioness. Even from a distance, they could see her labored, breathing, the way her ribs pushed against her pale, dirt-streaked fur. The sight was heartbreaking. Dr. Elias Carter, a seasoned wildlife veterinarian, was the first to move. He grabbed his medical kit, his pulse quickening as he stepped down from the vehicle. The rest of the team followed, each of them fully aware that every second counted. "She's worse than we thought," whispered Ava, a young conservationist, whose hands trembled as she raised her binoculars. "Look at her. She's barely holding on." Elias didn't need to look. He already knew. Years of experience had taught him to recognize when an animal was close to giving up. And this lioness, this rare, magnificent creature, was dangerously close. But what truly haunted him wasn't just her condition. It was the parasites. Millions of them, crawling over her skin, burrowing into her fur, feasting on her weakened body. Even more unsettling were the barnacles, hard, rough shells clinging unnaturally to her, as if she had spent years submerged in water, rather than roaming the savannah. It didn't make sense. How had it come to this? The answer wasn't simple. The team had been tracking reports of a sickly white lioness for weeks, scattered sightings from locals who claimed to have seen a ghostly predator wandering alone. At first, no one believed it. White lions were rare, almost mythical, and a pregnant one was even more unheard of. But then came the proof: blurry photos, discarded tufts of white fur, and finally the desperate call from a nearby ranger who had stumbled upon her collapsed near a dried-up watering hole. Now, standing just feet away, Elias could see the raw truth. If they didn't act fast, she and her unborn cubs wouldn't survive the night. The lioness lifted her head weakly, her golden eyes locking onto the strangers before her. There was no fear, only exhaustion. She had fought long enough. If these humans meant harm, she had no strength left to resist. Ava took a cautious step forward. Whispering soothing words she knew the lioness wouldn't understand, but hoped she could feel. They needed to move quickly, but any sudden motion could send the already fragile creature into shock. Elias reached for the tranquilizer gun, loading a carefully measured dose. Too much could harm the cubs. Too little, and she might struggle, worsening her condition. He exhaled slowly, aiming with practiced precision. The dart struck just above her shoulder. A sharp flinch, a shudder, but no fight. Within seconds, her breathing slowed, her muscles loosening as the sedative took hold. "She's out," Elias confirmed, but his voice was tight with urgency. "We need to move her now." The team sprang into action, moving with trained efficiency. A stretcher was laid out, ropes secured. Lifting a full-grown lioness was no small feat, but they had done it before. Still, none of their past rescues had ever felt quite like this. There was an unspoken weight pressing on all of them, as if they were witnessing something bigger than just an animal in distress. As they hoisted her onto the stretcher, something unexpected happened. A deep guttural growl rumbled in the distance. Not from her. From something else. The team froze. Ava turned slowly, scanning the horizon. At first, she saw nothing but endless grass swaying in the wind, then movement, shadows shifting among the tall reeds. Eyes, dozens of them, lions, and they weren't friendly. Ava's stomach dropped. This wasn't a rescue anymore. It was a fight for survival. "Ah!"